Welcome back to Everyday English Podcast, where we help you speak, not just listen. Today, we are breaking the biggest lie in language learning, that you must wait for silence to speak. Picture this. You're at dinner. It's loud. Everyone is laughing. Fast jokes. You translate a sentence in your head. You get ready to say it, but the moment is gone. You stay silent for 20 minutes.
I've been there. I remember sitting in a pub in London, nodding my head like a dog, terrified to interrupt because I didn't want to be rude. I felt invisible.
You aren't slow. You just don't know the wedge technique. By the end of this episode, you'll know exactly how to force a gap in the conversation.
You know, Sarah, that feeling of invisibility is probably the most painful part of reaching an advanced level of English. When you are a beginner, people slow down for you. They treat you gently. But when you are at a C1 or C2 level, you understand everything, but you are still sitting on the sidelines. It feels like you are watching a tennis match where the ball is moving so fast you can't even see it, let alone hit it.
Exactly. And the frustration comes from the fact that you actually have something to say. It is not that you don't have the vocabulary. You have the joke. You have the story. You have the opinion. But the door to the conversation keeps slamming shut right in your face.
I used to think it was a cultural thing. I thought maybe British people or American people are just rude. They seem to talk over each other constantly. In my native language, we value the pause. We wait for the other person to finish their thought completely, leave a little silence to show respect, and then we begin. But in English, especially in a group setting like a pub or a busy restaurant, that silence never comes.
It really doesn't. And that is the first thing we need to address, the physics of conversation. If you are waiting for a clean silence, or what we call a full stop or a period at the end of a sentence, you will be waiting all night. Native English speakers, particularly in informal groups, engage in what linguists call overlap.
Overlap is a great word for it. It feels like a traffic jam where everyone is merging lanes at the same time.
Think of it less like a relay race where I hand you the baton and stop running, and you start running. That is how textbooks teach dialogue. Hello, how are you? Pause. I am fine, thank you. Pause. Real conversation is more like a zipper. The teeth of the zipper have to interlock. The next speaker actually starts talking about half a second before the current speaker finishes. That half second is crucial. I remember watching a recording of a dinner party once, and I realized that if I waited for the silence, I was already 2 seconds late. By the time I opened my mouth, someone else had already filled that space. That is the timing gap. And it is terrifying for learners because you feel like you are interrupting. You feel rude. But here is the secret. In English culture, specifically in dynamic group settings, interruption, if done correctly, is not rude. It is actually a sign of engagement. It shows you are excited about the topic. If you stay silent, people might actually think you are bored or judging them. That is a huge mindset shift. I always worried that if I cut someone off, they would be offended. But you are saying that my silence was actually making me look more distant? Precisely. Active interruption creates energy, but you have to do it with the right tools. You cannot just shout a random word. You need a wedge. Think of a heavy door closing. You need to stick your foot in the door to keep it open. That is what we are teaching today, the interruption toolkit. I love that image of the wedge. So what is the first tool in this kit? Because physically, I often feel paralyzed. My mouth is dry and I just can't get the sound out. The first tool isn't actually a word. It is a sound and a physical action. We call it the nonverbal wedge. Before a native speaker says a sentence, they almost always signal that they are about to speak using their body and their breath. The breath is something I never noticed until I started paying attention to it. It's the sharp inhale. Listen to a group of friends talking. Right before someone speaks, you'll hear a quick, audible intake of breath. It sounds like a sharp hup. It is a signal to everyone else at the table that says, I am about to launch a sentence. It's like an engine revving up. If you don't do the inhale, people don't know you are coming. Exactly. If you just start speaking from a dead silence with no breath, your voice often comes out weak or cracked. But if you do a sharp inhale, let's try it. It's a quick intake of air through the mouth. It does two things. Physiologically, it fills your lungs so you can speak loudly, but socially, it catches people's eyes. Humans are programmed to react to sudden sounds. If you make that inhale sound, people will instinctively look at you.
So step 1 is literally just breathing loudly?
Yes, but combine it with the hand gesture. You don't need to raise your hand like you are in a classroom. Please do not do that. It looks very strange in a bar. But you can do a partial raise. Just lift your hand slightly off the table, maybe extend a finger or turn your palm up. It is a subtle motion that enters the peripheral vision of the speaker.
I have tried that finger lift move. It works surprisingly well. It's like saying, wait, I have something, without actually speaking.
So you have the inhale and the gesture. Now you need the filler sound. This is the sonic wedge. You rarely want to start with your main idea immediately. You want to use a throwaway word to test the waters and clear the lane. Common words for this are so, well, actually, or right.
Or even just a noise, right? Like or ah.
Yes, but actually or wait are stronger because they imply a connection to what was just said. Let's practice a combination. The inhale plus actually. It sounds like this. Actually?
It is almost aggressive, but in a friendly way. You are cleaning the floor.
It has to be fast. Imagine someone says, I hated that movie. You don't wait. You immediately go, actually, I thought it was great. The inhale happens while they are saying the word movie. You are overlapping their final word with your breath.
This feels like a sport. You have to be physically ready. When I was struggling with this, I realized I was usually slumped back in my chair. It's hard to interrupt from a relaxed position. I had to learn to lean forward, elbows on the table, looking ready to pounce.
Posture is part of the language. If you lean back, you are an audience member. If you lean forward, you are a participant. So we have the wedge. Lean forward, shark inhale, hand gesture, filler word. This buys you about 2 seconds of attention. Now, the problem is, what do you say next?
This is where I usually crashed. I would get their attention, everyone would look at me, and then I would panic because I didn't know how to connect my idea to what they were talking about. I would just blurt out something totally random.
That brings us to the second tool, the bridge phrase. The biggest mistake learners make is thinking they need to wait for a new topic to start. They think, oh, they are talking about football. I don't know football. I will wait until they talk about travel. But if you wait, the conversation might drift to politics, then to food, and you never get your turn. You have to build a bridge from their topic to yours.
I see this all the time. Someone will just say, I went to Paris last year, right in the middle of a conversation about cats. It kills the vibe completely.
It stops the flow because it's a non sequitur. It does not follow. You need a verbal pivot. The most powerful phrase for this is speaking of, or that reminds me of.
Speaking of is magic. You can connect almost anything with it if you are creative enough.
Let's say they are talking about traffic. It is boring. You want to talk about this great podcast you heard. You can't just say, I heard a podcast. You say, speaking of spending time in the car, I was listening to this podcast during my commute.
Ah, I see what you did there. You took the element of traffic, which involves cars and commuting, and used that as the hook to hang your topic on.
Exactly. You are validating their topic while stealing the focus for your own. Another great one is funny you say that. You use this when something they said triggers a memory. Even if the connection is loose, the phrase funny you say that tells the group, trust me, this is related.
It buys you the benefit of the doubt.
Right. And if you want to disagree or change direction completely, you can use the wait, are you saying bridge. This is great for clarifying and then pivoting. Wait, are you saying you didn't like the ending? Because I read an interview with the director where he explained it. Now you are talking about the interview, not just the movie.
You are taking control. I think that's the key word here, control. When you are learning a language, you feel out of control. These phrases give you the steering wheel back.
But Tom, even if you have the wedge and the bridge, there is one physical barrier that stops almost everyone, and that is volume.
Oh, the volume issue. This was my nemesis. I naturally have a quiet voice, even in my own language. In English, when I was nervous, I basically whispered. I thought I was speaking at an normal volume, but nobody heard me.
This is the internal versus external volume trap. Inside your head, your voice sounds loud because it's resonating in your skull, but in a busy pub with music and dishes clinking, your voice dies 3 inches from your mouth. You have to speak about 20% louder than you think is polite.
It feels like shouting, doesn't it?
It feels like shouting to you, but to them, it just sounds confident. There is a trick to this, though. You don't want to shout the whole sentence. You want to use the volume spike. You start the sentence high and loud, and then you drop down.
So instead of a flat line, it's a curve.
Exactly. Think of the wedge word, actually, or wait. That word needs to be a spike. It needs to cut through the noise. Actually, I think. You hit the first word hard. This shocks the airwaves and grabs attention. Once you have the eyes on you, you can lower your volume to a normal conversational level.
It is like ringing a bell before you make an announcement.
Yes, and connected to volume is pitch. When we are nervous, our vocal cords tighten up. Our voice goes high and squeaky. Excuse me, I think. That high pitch signals I am submissive. You can ignore me.
It sounds like you are asking permission to speak rather than taking your turn.
You want to drop your pitch at the end of the wedge. Not actually going up, but actually going down. A downward inflection commands authority. It tells the group, I am not asking a question. I am making a statement.
I remember practicing this in the shower, just saying hey and wait with a deep chest voice. It felt ridiculous, but it worked. The next time I was out with friends, I used that deep wait, and 3 people stopped talking immediately. It was almost scary how well it worked.
It is primal. We respond to lower, louder sounds. Now, before we move on to what happens when you crash and burn, because that will happen, I want to take a quick second to ask you a favor. If you are enjoying this deep dive into the real mechanics of conversation and you want to make sure you get our next episode on advanced professional vocabulary, please hit that subscribe button. It helps us keep making these long-form lessons for you.
And it really helps us know which topics you guys like the most. So, Sarah, let's talk about the crash, because I have definitely used the wedge, used the volume spike, got everyone to look at me, and then completely forgot what I was going to say.
The deer in the headlights moment. It is the worst feeling. You interrupt, the room goes silent, everyone looks at you, and your brain just displays a 404 error message.
And then the silence stretches out, and you can feel the heat rising in your face.
The instinct is to apologize profusely, or just mumble and look down. Oh, sorry, never mind, sorry. Do not do this. It makes the situation awkward for everyone. You need a recovery phrase.
You need a parachute.
The best parachute is honesty delivered with confidence. A great phrase is, sorry, I lost my train of thought. Go ahead.
I lost my train of thought. I use that even in my native language. It's a very natural thing to happen to anyone, not just a language learner.
Exactly. Native speakers lose their train of thought all the time. If you say it calmly and with a smile, nobody thinks, oh, his English is bad. They think, oh, he forgot his point. It preserves your dignity.
Another one I like is, it's gone. I'll bring it up if I remember it. Carry on.
Carry on is excellent. It gives permission for the group to resume the previous topic. You are acting like a conductor. Stop. Oops, false alarm. Go. It keeps you in a position of social power, even though you made a mistake.
What about when you interrupt but someone else interrupts at the same time? That double collision.
That happens constantly. 2 people try to wedge in at the same moment. The rule here is simple. If you have a strong point, repeat your wedge word. Actually. But if you want to be polite, simply gesture to them and say, you go first.
Short and sweet.
You go first or go ahead. It shows you are confident enough to wait. Ironically, letting someone else go first often makes the group listen to you more when you finally speak, because you are gracious.
So, putting this all together into a real scenario. I am at a bar with 3 colleagues. They are arguing about, I don't know, the best pizza in the city. They are talking fast, overlapping. I want to tell them about a place I found.
Okay, let's choreograph it. Step 1, posture. Lean forward, put your elbows on the table.
Check. I'm ready.
Step 2, listen for the end of a sentence, but don't wait for it. Anticipate it. As colleague A is saying, the best pepperoni I've ever had, you are preparing.
Step 3, the nonverbal wedge. I take a sharp inhale. I lift my hand slightly.
Step 4, the verbal wedge and volume spike. As they finish the word had, you boom out, actually.
Actually.
Step 5, the bridge. Actually, speaking of pepperoni, have you guys tried that new place on 5th Street?
And boom, I am in. I am driving the car.
You are driving. And notice you didn't need C2 grammar for that. You didn't need a fancy idiom. You needed timing, volume, and a simple bridge phrase.
It really is more about physics and psychology than it is about vocabulary lists.
That is the truth of advanced fluency. It is about how you inhabit the language physically.
I think the biggest takeaway for me today is that interruption is a skill you have to practice. It's not something you just get one day. You have to be brave enough to be messy.
You have to be willing to be a little bit rude by your own culture standards, to be polite by English standards. It is a paradox.
So what should our listeners do to practice this? Because they can't just walk into a random group of strangers and start shouting, actually.
Well, you could, but I wouldn't recommend it as a first step. I have a challenge for you this week. We call it the One Interrupt Challenge.
I like the sound of that.
Next time you are in a group conversation, it could be at work, with friends, or even on a Zoom call, I want you to set a goal to interrupt exactly once, just once, but focus entirely on the mechanics we talked about. Focus on the inhale, focus on the volume spike.
And if you don't have a group to practice with right now?
You can practice with content. Turn on a YouTube interview or a podcast with multiple people. Close your eyes, listen to the rhythm, and clap your hands exactly when you would interrupt. Test your timing against the real speakers. If you clap and then they keep talking for 3 more seconds, you are too early. If you clap during the silence, you are too late. Try to hit that overlap window.
That is a great drill. You can do that alone in your room without any pressure.
Exactly. Build the reflex first, then take it to the pub.
Sarah, this has been incredibly helpful. I wish I had known about the sharp inhale 10 years ago. It would have saved me a lot of silent nights.
It is never too late to start making noise, Tom. Thank you everyone for listening. Go out there, take a deep breath, and interrupt someone today.
See you in the next one. Bye.